Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. Happy Friday, everybody. Caleb Calhoun here. We've got a lot to get to, a lot of newsy topics to kick off the show. As right before we went live, I had to change the rundown. I'm sorry for the delay, but right before we went live, some news came out about Jermod McCoy. We're going to talk about that. That's going to kick off the show because that is huge news we're going to get to. Also, the big news from yesterday is that Vol Calls is coming to an end. I want to give you my thoughts on that. May not be in tune with how everybody else feels, but I've got some genuine issues with it. I'll just tell you that up front. Also, we're going to play a little four downs later with the true freshman most likely to make an impact. We're going to name a lot of people at different positions, but obviously there are four key ones that are headliners more than anybody else. I will get to those. Which Tennessee games do they need to focus all their energy on? When we talk about games by importance and ranking games by importance, this is going to be Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air, 50 year. Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures. Excuse me. We're going to talk about that. Which games do they need to focus the most on? That's going to be a big part of this show. Sorry, guys, I had some cords messed up at the bottom. And Arch Manning, could he return regardless of how well he plays this year? His grandfather Archie seems to suggest so, but I'm going to tell you, and it'll be bank on it, what actually will happen with regards to that. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling with today's tough question, and it surrounds Jermod McCoy. Far and away, Tennessee's most highly touted player entering 2025 per PFF, NFL Draft Scouts, all of that. Jermod McCoy, his injury back in January was the biggest concern facing the team, even beyond Nico Iamaleava leaving. He is a lockdown corner, can take away one side of the field, which allowed Tennessee's defense to be so much more elite last year than it was in previous years. One of the best transfer pickups Tennessee ever got him from Oregon State. He was a freshman All-American at Oregon State and then an actual All-American last year. We had been debating whether or not Jermod McCoy would ever be able to be effective in September. I was certain he wouldn't be full go and he wouldn't be 100%. And I'm still not certain he will be 100% or full go or able to have the type of impact that everybody would need him to have. It has created issues for Tennessee. It's why Ricky Gibson III entered the transfer portal back in the spring and then came back. He was demanding more money because he knew he was needed more because Tennessee needed all the help a cornerback they could get. It's why they went and got Colton Hood out of the transfer portal from Colorado. However, all of that could be thrown by the wayside because, according to reports, Jermod McCoy has returned to going through individual drills, and he was going through individual drills, on Thursday, and he has now returned to full Tennessee football practice with some restrictions. According to various reports, and I mean reports from CBS, On3, Knox News Sentinel, and Rocky Top Insider, the cornerback coming off an ACL injury went through coverage drills, but wasn't permitted to go through the drills with players, and coaches weren't allowed to throw the balls while he was in coverage. He then went on to go through a drill where it's a kind of a drill where you work on forcing fumbles for players, kind of a tackling drill somewhat. But the fact that Jermod McCoy is back at full drills for Tennessee is a huge deal. He's back, returning to practice on the field, and that is an amazing sign for Tennessee. And it leads to today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys, play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Today's tough question is this. Could Jermod McCoy be full go by the start of the season? I'm not saying that it's possible. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm not saying it's likely. But the fact that he's back at practice after a week, when Josh Heupel was very, I guess you'd say, mull on it in SEC Media Days and at the start of fall camp, suggest that he will be ready, that he is moving along much more quickly than Tennessee thought. This is a big deal, guys, by the way. And I want to talk about why it's a big deal later in the show because I'm going to rank all the games by importance. But I think one of Tennessee's best chances at an upset of its big games this year is Georgia. The problem is that game's in September. And Jermod McCoy, I didn't think would be fully ready to go at 100% in September. Could he be ready to go by then, though? It's very possible. Now, they obviously have to play Syracuse before then. Syracuse is a very dangerous team. Tennessee could get upset by Syracuse, which you don't want to see that happen if you're Tennessee, obviously. But at the same time, you do have to say that Jermod McCoy being already back out at the practice field, I think it's a huge sign for Tennessee. I mean, look, the secondary already looks a heck of a lot better this week than it does last week when Jermod McCoy was still going through drills to get healthy and Boo Carter, we didn't know if he would be back at practice. Well, this week, Boo Carter is back at practice and Jermod McCoy is Boo Carter's back at full practice and Jermod McCoy is back at restricted practice, but still practicing on the field. If they're both ready to go this fall, if they're both ready to go in the opener week 1, Tennessee secondary could be so elite, it would be insane. And I feel safe saying if that's the case, if they're both full go, Tennessee will easily be better on defense than they were last year. Because I just told you guys already about how Aaron Carter will be better than he was last year. He'll be a superstar All-American linebacker. He'll have a lot more help with Jeremiah Thielander on the other side, being more experienced to play the role at linebacker now. The whole secondary is pretty much back of players that were effective last year. And then the defensive line, which we talked about yesterday, still has enough to be serviceable. Taking all that into account, if Jermod McCoy is 100% week 1, then yes, I think Tennessee will be significantly better on defense. And look, this is a huge, huge development for Tennessee. So the question is, Jermod McCoy full go? Will he be full go by week 1? That is today's tough question. And the poll question is up. You guys go ahead and vote on it. Let me know what you think. I think he will at least be playing by week 1. Here's my take. I think Jermod McCoy is going to be ready to play week 1 and start at cornerback for Tennessee against Syracuse. But I think he'll be the number 2 cornerback that week. Ricky Gibson will be the number 1 cornerback. And then I think they will have him be the number 2 cornerback the next week as well when Tennessee plays East Tennessee State. Then he'll be they'll hope he's at 100%, and they'll be ready to have him go by Georgia on September the 13th. Now, they can't play McCoy Island against Georgia because they tried to play McCoy Island against Georgia last year and against Ohio State, and Jermod McCoy got burned both times. Jermod McCoy has not developed enough yet to play McCoy Island. And because of his injury, he didn't really develop much this all season either. So your only hope is that he's as good as he was last year in mid-September or early October. And as good as he was last year was not good enough to lock down Georgia's top receivers. It's just not. But I do think still he will be ready to play in September, and he will be full go by the Georgia game. That's my take. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Vote on the poll question now. Could Jermod McCoy be full go by week 1? That is up right now. First, a quick message from Banks & Jones.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up. Could Jermod McCoy be full go by week 1? 48% of you say yes. 52% of you say no. That's why I love our fan base. You guys are fully objective. You're not even saying that he will be. You're saying that he can't be. You don't believe it's likely. So I'm actually on the yes. He could be full go by week 1. But I think he won't be. I think he will be playing by week 1. And then he will be the number 1 cornerback by week 3 when Tennessee plays Georgia, which is their big focus, obviously. I think they'll be good enough to beat Syracuse, provided he's on the field and effective. Now, what does this mean for their depth chart at cornerback? Well, when Tennessee's fully healthy at cornerback, My take on how their depth chart is going to look, and this won't be the opener against Syracuse because I think won't be the number one cornerback, but I think once he is, here's what it's going to look like. Jermod McCoy will be the number one cornerback for Tennessee, the lockdown corner. Ricky Gibson III will be the corner on the other side. Boo Carter will be the nickel. I think Colton Hood and Jalen McMurray will both be utility cornerbacks. I'll come back to them in a second. Andre Turrentine will be the strong safety. I think Colton Hood's going to move over to free safety. I think Colton Hood, he is a versatile player who can play all the positions. I think they're going to put him at free safety. And then Jalen McMurray will be the utility cornerback, filling in for whoever needs a rest at any spot of these, or when they have to go to a dime package, which will be common. That's how I think it's going to work. And also, actually scratch that. I'm going to switch this again. I apologize, guys. I know I'm changing as I'm in real time, but I don't even think Colton. Here's how this is actually going to write. Let me start this over. Jermod McCoy is going to be the starting cornerback. Ricky Gibson will be the other cornerback. Boo Carter will be the nickel. What's throwing me off is the safety spot. I think Andre Turrentine has the strong safety spot locked in. Jordan Thomas is going to step in and fill the free safety void. He was the best player last year before he suffered a season-ending injury in fall camp. Now he's ready to go. I think he's going to step in and take the free safety role. Colton Hood and Jalen McMurray will both be utility defensive backs, stepping in for whoever needs a rest. And by the way, when you can give your quarterbacks a breather, that's a big boost. They'll both step in at different times for whoever's needing a breather, and for whenever somebody is hurt, and for whenever there's a dime package. So they'll be playing as much as the other five. So you're going to have a 7-deep cornerback situation with McMurray and Hood as the utility players, and Boo at the star, Ricky Gibson at one spot, Jermod McCoy at the other, and then Andre Turrentine and Jordan Thomas will be the two safeties. That's how I think it's going to look like. And then Idris Farouk, Marcus Corey Jr., and Caleb Beasley will be the backup safeties for those questioning that. So that's how I think this is all going to play out. But I do think overall, Jermod McCoy, the news surrounding Jermod McCoy right now is very, very good. Tennessee fans should be very thrilled by that. And it is a great sign going forward. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. We move on to vol calls. Breaking news from Thursday night. Tennessee is officially ending vol calls. New voice of the Vols broadcaster Mike Keith, who has been the Titans broadcaster for 25 years, is replacing Bob Kessling as the voice of the Vols. The 35-year programming of vol calls, in which typically on Monday, coaches would host a show with the play-by-play broadcaster, in this case Mike Keith, and they would field questions from the fans. UT and the Vol Network announced on August the 7th that the lineup, which includes now, this is to, according to them, increase programming and provide more programming and live programming and meet fans' quote, changing content needs. UT and Vol Network announced on August the 7th the lineup includes the Mike Keith Show from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday nights with Keith and Coach Josh Heupel during football season. Fans can submit questions via UT social media accounts to the show, which will run from August the 28th through May the 14th. Now, vol calls began in 1989 under Johnny Majors and John Ward, and every coach since then has been doing it. Also, I believe Tennessee basketball has been doing it since that time too. Okay, this is what the H, and it's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Affordable game day jewelry. If you're looking for that, look at Rick Terry. They want to be your jeweler at Tennessee tradition. Ending vol calls, I think, is a disgrace. I understand what many of you guys might say on the message boards, which is that changing times, you don't really like the callers anymore. A lot of people call in and say stupid stuff. Fair enough. I don't care. This is a direct way for the coach to interact with the fans and for the programming at the University of Tennessee, for the media filter to not be able to filter things that come through. I think that's how it should be. Okay. I've said this before, and if I were president of the United States, I wouldn't just do a White House press briefing room. I would do a president calls. I would sit there and sit in my press room once a week. I would sit somewhere and for 3 hours, I would field calls from constituents. I'd do that. I think politicians should do it. And I think coaches for a college football team should do it. You can't tell me that it's the same because fans can submit questions via social media accounts. Well, UT and Josh Heupel get to pick which questions they're going to answer. With vol calls, you might get a crazy person calling in. Here's why this is happening, okay? The reason this is happening is because you've had moments like Dabo Swinney getting called out by Clemson fans and getting into spats with them during Tiger calls. And Tennessee and other schools are now trying to avoid that. That's exactly what's happening. I think they're dodging. I think this is dodging the public and dodging pressure with vol calls. I do. This is an absolute disgrace. This is absolutely ridiculous. They should keep it. I don't care how bad. I'm going to say this up front. I don't care how bad the callers are. They have a right to be bad. They are fans. They patronize this product. They are the reason this whole thing exists. And I'm going to set up the poll question right now. By ending vol calls, Josh Heupel is running from fans, pressure, or we'll finally say neither. This is the right move. Okay. That's my poll question. By ending vol calls, Josh Heupel is running from fans, pressure, neither. This is the right move. This is not the right move. I don't care how bad the questions are. You should be able to sit there for a period of time once a week, particularly during the season, and field questions from the people that make this thing go. All right. I'm sorry. It's a big deal to end vol calls. This is something that is crucial to the fan experience. Again, this is why you can say, and I'm going to point this out. I get the questions are bad. I get Josh Heupel's cagey. I don't care. A lot of times the questions from fans, every now and then one seeps through, and it's better than questions you get from many media members. I say this as somebody who's in the media, okay? I say this as someone who considers himself part of the fourth estate. I think fans should have a role and a job to do and should have the opportunity to be a part of what we do. We, as the fourth estate, do try to be the liaison, not the PR person, but the liaison between the whatever we're covering and the people who are reading us and the fans and the followers. But sometimes they deserve direct access, okay? And this is a point where they deserve direct access. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that Josh Heupel is ending ending vol calls right now. And I'm going to address a few things real quick. Because Pseudosham says people don't listen, Caleb, when you're talking about vol calls. I don't care. I don't care. This is something that's important for the credibility of everything. Do we think people are going to listen to the new program that they're doing? Let me just pull out the new program that they're doing real quick. This is the new programming that they have going on. All right. And I'm going to give you the full, the full rundown. So you have the Big Orange Rewind presented by Calhoun, Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, where Mike Keith and Brent Hubbs will host a live statewide radio show on all Vol Network radio affiliates during football and basketball season, I guess, where they look back on the week. You got the Vol Network Monday meeting at 7 to 8 p.m. Every Monday during football and basketball season, Keith will host Vol Network Weekly Monday meeting, an in-depth television show showcasing Tennessee. Heupel will be a guest for multiple segments. The Mike Keith Show, Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. ET. This is where, yes, the coaches will be joined, and I do believe you will be able to submit questions on Twitter during this time. I don't care. All right, I don't care. That's not the same as calling in. Everything Orange Fridays, where Everything Orange, Tennessee Athletics official podcast, returns for season 3. That's been going on. Volunteer Game Day, the whole game day show on Saturdays, 2 hours before kickoff. Vol Network football broadcast on Saturdays, obviously. You see, here's the point. This is more promo stuff for Tennessee. Because of the YouTube age and the internet age, guys, I think what they're missing is you don't need the radio shows to get this access anymore to content. It's the nature of the content. I don't care if people aren't watching. And also, B.S. Osborne points out the weekly Sunday Josh Heupel show on Sundays is over. Yeah, what about those? Now, I will say that was a little more, they were able to do promo stuff for it. And I think I don't know if that's as important, but I think was worth doing, because the reason that was worth doing was it wasn't that they were going to be questioned by fans, but they had to explain every single play that was happening in real time. I have a real big question on that. Colton Ditmore says, are we sure it's hyperlending it? Maybe it was suggested and he just doesn't carry the weight. No, that's certainly possible. I can see Danny White doing this. I think this is a major L and major mistake. And I got a huge problem with Heupel doing this. And Adam says the screening is why people don't listen. Just don't threaten anyone and respect free speech. I actually, if they are screening, I'm not sure if they are, but if they are doing screening, I have a problem with that too. You shouldn't screen. You should literally just be like, whoever's able to call in gets to call in and gets to say whatever the hell they want. That's the nature of all calls. That's where I land on this. And I have a big problem with it ending. What the H brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
The poll question up: by ending vol calls, Josh Heupel is running from fans, pressure, or neither. This is the right move. 38% say fans, 25% say pressure, 38% say neither. This is the right move. So 63% of you are saying that he's running from something. Now, to address some points on the message board, Colton jumps in and says, I won't complain if they win. Colton, have you met me? I complain when they win. I'm not a cheerleader for Tennessee. Never have been, never will be. Okay, as someone who's covering Tennessee, my job is to deliver the facts and analysis for the people who do cheer Tennessee. But I'm not a cheerleader myself. And the people who do cheer Tennessee have every right to access the coaches at some point. They make this thing go. Josh Heupel makes $9 million a year, $10 million, whatever. Okay, these coaches are making eight-figure salaries. They will retire with 9 figures in their bank account, many of them that have this type of success if they invest right. I don't care how things go. Fans have a right to at some point access them and ask them real questions. This is just as bad as 2019 when Philip Fulmer ditched the Big Orange Caravan as athletic director with Jeremy Pruitt and tried to sell like, oh, we're going to do something much more fun, more smoky, and the cheerleaders will go and you can take pictures with the player, with the fans, and it's going to be so cool. No. I want fans to be able to ask questions. And I say this as somebody, again, who is in the media, who considers it my job to be the questionnaire for the fan base. I don't care. I think oftentimes fans produce content as good as the media, and they deserve the chance to produce that content for anybody. They deserve the chance to call in. That whole Dabo Swinney situation last year, I didn't mind it, and I didn't mind it from Dabo's perspective either. For those who don't remember, this was 2 years ago. A fan called in and questioned Dabo on why he's not getting the job done anymore and basically implied that he had lost his touch and he's out of it. And Dabo lashed out and said, you're part of the problem. You know, look at what Clemson's done and look at what they were doing before I got here. And now you're mad about the success that I generated. Dabo was right to be that way. I sided with Dabo. But I also sided with the fact that a fan should be allowed to call in and ask that question because coaches should be able to handle that pressure. If you can't handle pressure from fans, on one night a week calling in, asking you some questions, how can you manage an SEC grind season? You just can't. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's embarrassing. I think that this is a really, really, really bad look for Tennessee football to end vol calls. And I'm going to stay on my soapbox on this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And everybody should be upset about it. This is running from pressure and fans. And don't ever act like, and they are acting like they are above the people who don't play or coach the game by doing this. And it's a disgrace. I want to say it again. It's a disgrace. Vol calls ending is a total and utter disgrace. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to have a little more fun, and we're going to talk about true freshmen likeliest to make an impact for Tennessee football. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good,
You're gonna need a new one ASAP.
you are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Caleb Calhoun here. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. Want you to be a part of it. Once again, we are brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, BanksandJones.com, and we broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I was on a soapbox recently, just last segment, about vol calls and my anger and frustration that vol calls would ever get canceled, regardless of how bad it got. And right now it says my poll question, by ending vol calls, Josh Heupel is running from fans, pressure, or neither. This is the right move. 45% saying neither. This is the right move, but 55% of you are saying a plurality are saying neither. It's the right move, but the majority are admitting he's running from something. 36% say he's running from fans, and 18% of you say he's running from pressure. So I would say that, yes, I think Josh Heupel is running from fans and pressure. And I think that's a very unfortunate thing for Tennessee. So before we get rolling, it is time for this day in Tennessee sports history. And there's a couple, actually, that I want to get to. Actually, there's three that I want to get to. First, I would like to say yours truly, and I'd like to send a shout out to my wife, Jordan Calhoun. Yours truly married his wife 10 years ago today. Yes, it is the 10-year anniversary for me and my wife, and I want to say that publicly on radio right now. We have made it 10 years, made it through one son so far. So it's been a wonderful 10 years, and I want to say that this day needs to involve that. The other this day is also involving Scotty Hopson. It's his birthday. Scotty Hopson was the leading scorer on the Tennessee basketball team that reached the Elite Eight in 2010. The first Tennessee basketball team to ever reach the Elite Eight was a five-star, three-year player for Tennessee in the late 2000s, kind of the post-Chris Lofton era of the Bruce Pearl years, and that was by far their best season during those years. On top of that, well, first off, Scotty Hopson is 36 today. Finally, it's the 4-year anniversary of Peyton Manning's Hall of Fame speech. when Peyton Manning was officially inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that's one of the greatest Hall of Fame speeches of all time. You guys should go watch it. Peyton Manning really expressed his love for the game in the NFL. And for Peyton Manning, you could tell it was about his focus on what's best for the future of the NFL and making sure the NFL is better going forward than it was without him. So it is the 4-year anniversary of that, and I think we all need to send him a special shout out for that. So this day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Joe Newberg Collision Centers. This day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Joe Newberg Collision Center. Newberg Collision Center has been around in East Tennessee for nearly 50 years. East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNewbergCollision.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newberg's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newberg Collision Center.
Tennessee is a younger team than usual this year, despite Josh Heupel entering his 5th year. Due to transfers, players leaving early for the draft, and a lot of other confluence of factors, Josh Heupel, for the first time, will have to rely on a majority of players. Josh Heupel, for the first time, will have to rely on players that he signed out of high school as recruits for the majority of his team. That means true freshmen are going to have somewhat of an impact this year for the first time, too. Now, most notably, David Sanders is one of those guys. ESPN has named David Sanders as one of the 3 true freshmen to watch this year, along with Dallas Wilson, Florida wide receiver, and LSU cornerback DJ Pickett. David Sanders Jr., here's what ESPN wrote about him. Quote, rarely does Tennessee turn a starting offensive line spot over to a freshman, but Sanders has all the developmental markers of an impactful tackle right out of the gate in Rocky Top. He was named North Carolina's Gatorade Player of the Year as a junior, a rare accolade for an offensive lineman, and was the number 7 recruit in the class of 2025. Tennessee coaches challenged Sanders to put on weight after he enrolled early, and he answered the call. The freshman now checks in at 6'6", 305 pounds with an exceptional combination of athleticism, lower body flexibility, and reaction skills. Sanders will have every opportunity to win the starting right tackle spot on the Volunteers line that needs to replace 4 starters from last year as they retool in search of a national championship. Tennessee's true freshmen. Who among them will make the biggest impact for the Vols this year? How many will be impact players beyond just David Sanders? We're going to talk about that. This is 4 Downs. It's brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I don't have the board for Cooper Mays, so all I can say to you is that Cooper Mays asked you all to hit like and subscribe. And Coop here, first down. Once again, for those who don't know why I do that, when Dave Hooker is on the show, he is out right now for personal health reasons, but when he's on the show, Dave Hooker has a board that has Cooper Mays asking first down, second down, third down, and fourth down. And it's become kind of an inside joke running gag. So without the board, I don't have it. I don't have the soundboard. I just try to do it myself. So Cooper, first down. Tennessee true freshman most likely to make an impact. First down is David Sanders Jr. How much of an impact will he make? I think he's going to make a huge impact. I'm very, very high on David Sanders making a huge impact. Look, yes, it's rare to start a freshman on the offensive line. That does not mean it hasn't happened. People are mentioning it on the message board. Trey Smith started at guard for Tennessee as a true freshman, one of the worst teams in Tennessee history in 2017, but he was a bright spot, was a freshman All-American that year. It happens. Also, we know that he's going to start because Larry Johnson III entered the transfer portal after spring ball, which suggests that he entered it because Tennessee opened the checkbook for David Sanders, thinking that they could get him into football shape to start this year, and it seems like they can. So they've got him locked in at the right tackle spot, and I don't think there's any question that he's going to be starting. Now, there's a few other notable, and I want to point this out, there are a few other notable players that were highly touted offensive linemen that I want to get to before we go to second down. One is Nick Moore, an interior offensive lineman, in-state. I don't think he's going to be ready to go, though. Interior offensive line is actually more complex to learn than tackle is in Josh Heupel's system. But he was a 4-star, so I want to send a mention to him. Anthony Ogumoro, a 3-star tackle. He's going to need some development. So it's going to be David Sanders Jr. He's going to start opposite Lance Hurd. In my opinion, is the backups are going to be Brian Grant and Bennett Warren, other players Heupel signed out of high school from previous recruiting classes. Now, Cooper Mays here. Second down. My next impact true freshman. Get ready for this, guys. Hold on to your horses. Is that the phrase? I don't know. But Travis Smith Jr., the 4-star wide receiver out of Atlanta, stands at 6'4". I believe now he has already gone over 200 pounds. You guys can tell me on that. I'm pretty sure he's gone over 200 pounds. I'm pulling it up now, pulling up his exact weight. Travis Smith is officially 6'3", 210 pounds. He's been working with the team back in the spring. I know it's very hard for a true freshman to learn this system, hence the reason Mike Matthews didn't start a lot last year. Tennessee was also playing a bunch of seniors on that team that had been with the program, that had earned the right to go. Dante Thornton and Brew McCoy, both back from injury. Plus, Chris Brazel was more experienced. However, this year, Mike Matthews and Chris Brazel both battled injury in spring ball. I think at some point in the season, Tennessee's going to have to turn to a freshman or to another receiver, and they don't have a lot of depth there. They have a walk-on in Trey Weary. They have Amari Jefferson, who is injured this year and is going to just pretty much spend the whole season getting healthy. So what happens after those two? They have to turn to a freshman, because you can say Braylon Saylor and Boo Carter, but both of them are playing in the slot. So which freshmen do they have? You have Travis Smith, a 4-star out of Atlanta. You have Rob Jackson, a 4-star out of Memphis. And then you have Joaquin Dotson, a 3-star out of Chattanooga. Dotson did not enroll until the summer. So he's already behind in learning the playbook. And like I said, this is a complicated system to learn for a receiver. So Dotson, out. It's between Jackson and Smith, and all signs point to the fact that Jackson, who is a more highly touted recruit to begin with, has made more of an impact in the offseason as well. So Smith, I think Travis Smith Jr. will be the receiver, the freshman receiver that actually is able to make an impact. So, Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down. Isaiah Campbell. We talked about this yesterday. Tennessee's defensive tackles, among the 2 spots, they like to go 6 deep. Last year, that 6 was Amari Thomas, Omar Norman Lott, Elijah Simmons, David Hobbs, Bryson Eason, Jackson Moy. I think that was it, right? Yes. That was 6. But they lost Thomas, Simmons, and Norman Lott. So, Rodney Garner said they're looking for that 4th defensive tackle yesterday when they have Eason, Hobbs, and Moy. Josh Shell was a transfer they added from Grand Valley State. This type of graduate transfer is not a player that they wouldn't add unless they thought they were ready, unless they expected him to make an immediate impact. I'm hearing a lot of things about Jamal Wallace, so I think he'll be in there. But who will be the 6th guy? I think it will be Isaiah Campbell. Now, Nathan Robinson's in the list, and he could make a run. But Isaiah Campbell was a highly touted recruit. Tennessee signed 3 defensive tackles this offseason. Charles House III, Ethan Utley, Isaiah Campbell. All 3 of them had a 4-star rating somewhere. Utley and Campbell, all 3 of them were 4 stars, period. It was a very, very good defensive line class. Campbell and Utley stood out the most. Campbell's the most highly touted of the 3. So I genuinely think that Isaiah Campbell will be the defensive tackle to see most of the action in the game. So I think that Isaiah Campbell is my 3rd down guy, who I think will be a key part of this team. 4th down coming up, brought to you again by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center, Cooper Mays here. Fourth down. Fourth down are a few other backups that I just want to name as true freshmen at other spots that could have an impact. One is already mentioned, Jaden Perlow. That is possible because there is no true middle linebacker behind Jeremiah Thielander. Jordan Burns is in there too. Now, behind Arian Carter, you have Edwin Spillman, who I think is going to fill the void. But Jaden Perlow and Jordan Burns, watch out for both of them. No true freshmen are going to start in the secondary. Tennessee's added too much. Tennessee's too deep there, particularly if Jermod McCoy is fully healthy and Boo Carter's back at practice. A couple of other ones you want to go to. So Jaden Perlow is one of the most notable ones. As far as the offensive line, as far as now, tight end is another place to look, particularly with Miles Kutzman banged up to start the year. I think he'll be full go, and I think Ethan Davis will be the guy that steps in and be fine. But Deshaun Bram and Jack Van Dorslier are both true freshmen who could have an impact. As far as running backs, again, yes, Dwayne Morris is a big pickup for Tennessee, was a big pickup for this roster, but Deshaun Bishop, Star Thomas, and Peyton Lewis on the roster. He's not going to play this year. And most notably, George McIntyre, not happening. They've already moved him to third team. It's Aguilar and Merklinger. It's Joey Aguilar and Jake Merklinger are the quarterbacks this year, and I think Heupel has rigged that starting quarterback role. So that's just kind of how it's going to play out this year. But I'm going to set up the poll question now, which is this, and you guys can go ahead and vote on it. Which is, which Tennessee true freshman outside of David Sanders Jr. will have the biggest impact? And I'm going to say Travis Smith Jr. I'm going to say Isaiah Campbell. We'll go Ra Jackson, Isaiah Campbell, or somebody else. And you guys can go ahead and vote on that right now. Two receivers, obviously. Again, Jackson and Smith really stand out, but I had Jackson as my second down guy. So we'll see how that plays out. Portions of the program are brought to you by HoundDogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about the difficult games on Tennessee's schedule and which ones are in the top tier. Stick with us 2 minutes. Not difficult, important games. Which ones are in the top tier of important? Stick with us 2 minutes. Off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. Here to look at that plumbing problem? Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink. If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk.
Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. We continue our preseason coverage with the 2025 Tennessee football schedule. It is time for Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. What are Tennessee's most important games this year on the schedule? Not most difficult, most important. When I say most important, I mean this. The games in which they need to exert the most energy for, the most effort for, in which Josh Heupel and the coaching staff need to pull out all the stops. During a regular season, you have to ration, you have to do triage, you have to say, okay, we have to make some sacrifices here, so we have this ready for here, and we have to do things here, so we have to do ready for here. For instance, when should they rest a player, and when should they start a player, depending on how healthy he is, because it's all the marbles. When should they put all their chips on the table, and when should they not? We're going to play a little hot or cold and determine which games they should put all their chips on the table and which games they should not. And if it's more, or if it's yes, they should put more of their chips on the table, I'm going to say that's hot. If it's a game where they should actually be willing to sacrifice a little bit, either because it's an easy win or because it's just a game that it's not worth trying to win, if it's a sure loss, I'm going to say that's cold. So hot or cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures. Again, let's get rolling. This is going to be a fun one. First off, the poll question up: which Tennessee true freshman outside of David Sanders Jr. will have the biggest impact? Travis Smith Jr., Ra Jackson, Isaiah Campbell, or somebody else? Travis Smith Jr. has 41%, Robert Jackson at 41%, Isaiah Campbell at 6%, somebody else at 12%, so 82% say one of the receivers. I'm ending that one, and I'm going to roll with this poll question, and you guys get started. What game should Tennessee exert its most effort trying to win? And we'll go Syracuse, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. Okay, what game should Tennessee exert the most effort trying to win? Syracuse, not which game is the most difficult, which game do they need to spend the most effort on? So we're going to get started, hot or cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures for each game. And we start with the opener against Syracuse on August the 30th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta at noon. All right, I'm hot on this. There has already been a publication predicting Syracuse will upset Tennessee this year. I believe that publication, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to pull it up now, is Saturday Down South writer Spencer Davis. He predicted 5 upsets for the opening weekend of college football, and he listed Syracuse beating Tennessee as one of his bets. Tennessee has to use a lot of its effort and exert a lot of its energy for Syracuse. That is a much more difficult non-conference game than NC State was last year. Yes, Syracuse loses a lot of talent from last year's team, but Fran Brown is an incredibly good coach. He had a great first season, going 10-3 and finishing in the top 25. Fran Brown, I think, is a rising star in this business. Okay, before he was at Syracuse, he was a defensive backs coach at Georgia. He knows what he's doing. Very smart coach. I think Syracuse, honestly, I think this is a really, really, really big deal for them, for Tennessee. And Tennessee needs to make sure that they put this game away. They can't get caught napping on this one. Syracuse is going to pull out all the stops. So Tennessee's going to I'm hot. Tennessee's going to have to exert its energy for Syracuse. Moving on, East Tennessee State University. Okay, I'm cold on that, guys. Obviously, you don't need to put out a lot of effort to beat ETSU. You should save everything that week. It's a fall out of bed victory. Tennessee should have its 5th string in there and win by 40. And actually, ETSU this year is led by Will Healy, who is in his first year, believe it or not, because ETSU head coach Trey Lamb, who was only there for a year last year, has now gotten hired at Tulsa. But Tennessee has experience playing Will Healy, if I'm not mistaken, because he was at Charlotte when Tennessee played Charlotte one year. I'm trying to remember the exact year Tennessee played Charlotte. But Tennessee has experience with Will Healy, and Will Healy was also at Austin Peay. Fall out of bed win. They don't have to exert any energy. Georgia, week 3. Hot. I'm going to tell you this right now, guys. This is their best chance at an upset win. Georgia, week 3 is their best chance of their 3 marquee games in which they're underdogs. This is their best chance to pull out a victory, particularly with Jermod McCoy fully healthy now. They get Georgia at home, Georgia with a new quarterback, Georgia breaking against a new talent, Kirby Smart maybe losing the team a little bit. I think this game at Neyland Stadium, Tennessee needs to pull out all the stops for. This is their most important game. I am very hot on this. Tennessee needs to beat Georgia and pull out all the stops. UAB, cold. They don't have to put out effort to beat UAB. Again, like ETSU, just reserve everything and just try to sleepwalk your way through that win. At Mississippi State, hot. I'm hot on this. Look, I'm sorry, but this is a dangerous game. It's right before their bye. Mississippi State, I think, will be a much better team under Jeff Lebby in their second year. We know what Tennessee what can happen to them on the road under Josh Heupel. We know what happened with the Arkansas game last year. I know what you guys think of Mississippi State, but Mississippi State starts the year off at Southern Miss. Okay. Now, that's a tough game, should be a tough game. Southern Miss is undergoing a coaching change. Even though it's on the road, Mississippi State should win that game. Then they get Arizona State at home. Guys, do not sleep on Mississippi State upsetting Arizona State at home, even though Arizona State made the playoff last year. And if that happens, Mississippi State will be 4-0 when they host Tennessee, because then they're playing Alcorn State in Northern Illinois, and they might crack the top 25. So I'm very hot on Tennessee having to put effort into this game because it's a road game, and you just can't trust Tennessee on the road. So I'm hot on that. Then comes the bye. Arkansas. All right, I know Tennessee lost to Arkansas last year. I'm cold on this, though. They'll sleepwalk their way to victory on this. They won't lose to Arkansas at home. That's still not a good team. That team was very lucky to beat Tennessee last year. They're poorly coached. There are a lot of issues. Sam Pittman gets guys to play hard for him, but in Knoxville, they don't have to exert a lot of energy. They can sleepwalk their way through that. Alabama on the road. Now, here's my hottest take of the week. I'm sorry, guys. I'm cold. They shouldn't exert a lot of energy beating Alabama. Alabama's going to be too good this year. It's on the road. It's in Tuscaloosa. And Alabama is going to be much better in Kalen DeBoer's second year. They're loaded with talent. They have a quarterback that can run the system now. I just don't think they're going to lose a game at home this year, honestly. I think Alabama might actually they do have Georgia, but that's on the road, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they have Georgia on the road. So I'm pretty sure Alabama's going undefeated at home this year. Louisiana Monroe, Wisconsin, Vanderbilt, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois. Yeah, Alabama's going undefeated at home this year. So I think, honestly, there's no real chance of Tennessee beating Alabama anyway. That's my hot take of the week, guys. You guys can hate on me on that, but that is my hot take of the week. Tennessee will not beat Alabama this year. No reason to waste energy on it. It's a road game. If it was a home game, I would speak differently, but because it's a road game, I think you should save your energy, because the next week at Kentucky, I know Tennessee owns Kentucky. I know Kentucky doesn't beat Tennessee no matter the circumstances. I'm still hot, and you having to exert your energy. Josh Heupel has had to squeak out victories against Kentucky the 2 times they played Kentucky on the road. In 2021, they won 48-45, and that was only because of Volontae Taylor's pick 6. And then 2 years ago, Joe Milton had his most accurate game of all when Tennessee beat Kentucky 33-27. I get how people feel about Kentucky. Tennessee should blow them out, but Josh Heupel underachieves on the road. They struggle on the road, and I think they will give up. They will go all out to try to beat Tennessee. Tennessee's going to have to exert effort on that. I would exert more effort trying to beat Kentucky than Alabama if I were Tennessee this year. That's my hot take. Now, moving on. After Kentucky, Oklahoma, November the 1st. Again, I'm hot on. I don't believe in Brett Venables. I think the team could unravel by then, but they're still a dangerous team, and we saw what they did to Alabama last year in November, knocking them out of the playoffs. So Tennessee's going to have to exert energy trying to beat Oklahoma. So I'm hot on that too. Then comes New Mexico State after a bye. No, they don't have to exert energy beating New Mexico State. Save your energy, sleepwalk your way to victory, call it a day. I think that there's nothing you have to show to beat New Mexico State. However, November the 22nd at Florida. Now, unlike Alabama, this is a winnable game. So yes, they need to exert all of their energy trying to beat Florida in the Swamp. I think Florida, this would be a bad loss if they lost, because I don't think Florida's a playoff caliber team. I think they'll be better. But Tennessee's actually got to go all out to beat Florida in the Swamp. Even if Florida does fall apart under Billy Napier, Tennessee's still going to have to go all out to beat Florida. So yeah, they got to exert all their energy possible. This is a crucial game that they need to pull out all the stops to win. If they can pull out all the stops largely because also if they pull out all the stops against Florida and run the table against all the other teams and lose the games they're underdogs in, which would be Alabama and Georgia, they're still in the playoffs. So yes, I'm hot on them having to beat Florida. And finally, Vanderbilt at home, November the 29th. Cold on it. Don't care about the Diego Pavia stuff. Vanderbilt's not going to Knoxville and winning that week. Not happening. I would spend my time recruiting that week. I would do what Philip Fulmer did back in the day and just spend that week recruiting and just accept an ugly victory. So hot or cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures. I'm going to rank the games by importance coming back after a message quickly from Sports Treasures.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Okay, the poll question up. Tennessee's most important game, which they should exert the most effort trying to win. Georgia leads the way at 53%. Florida second at 29%. Alabama at 12%. Syracuse at 6%. I mostly agree with you guys. I would still have Syracuse ahead of Alabama. So here's me ranking the games by importance. And these are based on winnability, difficulty, all of those things. And this is ranking the games by how much they need to exert energy in each of them. Last place, ETSU. No shock there. Easiest game on the schedule. Then New Mexico State, then UAB, then Vanderbilt, then Arkansas. Those 5 are the fall out of bed victories for Tennessee this year. I'm not concerned at all. They don't need to exert any energy whatsoever. They could bring back Gaston Moore and start him a quarterback. They could start Navy Schuler. They could trot Josh Heupel back out there. They're winning those 5 games. Then is Alabama. Okay, so ETSU 12, New Mexico State 11, UAB 10, Vanderbilt 9, Arkansas 8. Alabama's the seventh most important game on the schedule this year. It is. It's more important that they run the table against those other tough teams while also making sure that they steal a game that's actually stealable. Alabama's not a stealable game. More important than Alabama is Mississippi State at number 6, since that's a road game that they could win and also could get upset on. Number 5 is Kentucky, another road game they could win but also could be upset in. Number 4 is Oklahoma, game in Neyland Stadium, but that's a dangerous team. Number 3 is Syracuse. Opening game, they could get upset that one. Number 2 is Florida, and number 1 is Georgia. Those are the most important. That's the ranking of the games on the schedule by importance. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. So when we come back, we are going to discuss some comments about Arch Manning. And I think I got a little bit of decent insight into this that might shock you guys. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook. Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year,
The second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to the program. Hit that like and subscribe button. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you." QualityTirePros.com. It is time for the stat of the day, and the stat of the day is this: Tennessee football, being number 18 in the coaches poll, is in the preseason top 25 for the 3rd straight year. Now, at least for the coaches. Here's why that's relevant. And this is kind of one of the things that a lot of people may not be aware of, but we're going to bring it up. The last time they started a year, the last time that they went 3 straight years being ranked in the preseason coaches poll was 2015 through 2017. We know how 2017 ended. It was not pretty. They went 4-8, and it was the worst season in Tennessee football history. I have no problem saying that, by the way, either. Before that, the last time they started the year, they went 3 straight seasons or more in the top 25 was actually, they did 19 straight seasons from 1990 to 2008. But on the 3rd straight season that year, 1992, was the year that the crazy coaching change between Philip Fulmer and Johnny Majors happened, when things were rough. Before that, when they went 3 straight preseasons in the top 25 was 1986 to 1998. 1988, they started 1988 0-6 and finished the year 5-6. Are you guys following a trend here? It's not usually a good sign for Tennessee the 3rd straight year they are in the preseason top 25. And that is going to be the stat of the day. One you guys probably did not want to hear, but it's just fact. Stat of the day is brought to you by the UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, located at 10629 Hardin Valley Road. All right, it's time to close things out with some Arch Manning news. Texas quarterback Arch Manning will stay at Texas through 2026, according to his grandfather, Archie Manning. In an extensive feature on the Manning family in Texas Monthly recently, Archie Manning said his grandson will not enter the 2026 NFL draft. Quote, Arch isn't going to do that. He'll be at Texas. Obviously, Arch Manning is in his 3rd year starting, or is in his 3rd year at Texas. This is his 1st year starting. All the hype is behind him. He's already a Heisman favorite. He has shown great promise. He's developing under a great developer of talent in Steve Sarkisian. I question his actual X's and O's. But the thought would be that if Arch balls out, that he would go straight to the NFL. But if he stays, he would be following in the footsteps of his father, Peyton Manning. Of his uncles, Peyton and Eli Manning. Not his father. His uncles, Peyton and Eli Manning, and his grandfather, Archie Manning, although during Archie's time, nobody left early for the NFL. Peyton Manning made a huge splash at the end of the 96 season when he decided to come back for a senior season, even though he would have been the number 1 draft pick. That was a huge deal. Tennessee fans fell in love with him from that point on, and he says consistently that's the best decision he had ever made, or one of them. He doesn't regret it at all. Eli Manning could have gone out early in 2002 and may have been the number 1 draft pick in the 2003 NFL draft, but he chose to come back to Ole Miss too. Now, he didn't have the same cachet Peyton had. He had been up and down at Ole Miss during that time, and Carson Palmer was the number 1 draft pick who was picked by USC. We don't know if Eli would have been the number 1 draft pick. He might have. Once workouts came into play, people would have found Eli to be a much more valuable quarterback than Carson Palmer. At the same time, though, he came back too. However, there's one real story on why they both came back. And it's not just wanting to come back to college. So while Arch would be following in their footsteps to come back, there's another layer here now. Eli Manning came back for a 5th year because he actually redshirted in 1999 at Ole Miss, and then he was a freshman in 2000. But this is what will determine whether or not Arch Manning leaves early for the NFL next year. And it's Bank on It. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Arch Manning's decision over whether or not to go to the NFL next year, assuming he plays well enough to be the number 1 draft pick, will depend on which NFL team has the number 1 draft pick. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Let me tell you something about the Manning family and its royalty in college football and the NFL. Let me tell you about something about what they really focus on. They are very big in making sure they are drafted to the right situation. This stems from Archie Manning. Archie tries to say the classiest stuff about being in New Orleans and playing for the Saints. And he does love the city of New Orleans. And he's a great ambassador for that city. And he raises kids there. And I'm sure there's a lot to love about that. Archie Manning, though, we all know this. Archie Manning played for the Saints for 11 years and was the best losing quarterback in history. Most NFL analysts from that time said if you put Archie Manning on the Steelers and Terry Bradshaw on the Saints, Terry Bradshaw would have been out of the league in 3 years, and Archie Manning would be in the Hall of Fame and considered one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. While Archie Manning himself was classy about it, the number 1 thing he cared about was making sure his kids and his grandkids and his legacies did not get stuck in horrifically bad situations in the NFL by horrifically incompetent franchises the way he was. Now, what's the real reason Peyton Manning stayed for a senior season at Tennessee? The Jets had the number 1 draft pick in 1997. I can tell you this right now, Peyton Manning did not want to get drafted by the Jets. Archie Manning knew enough around in inner circles to know that the Jets were a bad franchise for him to go to. They are an incompetently run franchise. They were a terrible franchise. Peyton Manning never would have had the right situation around him had he gone to the Jets. That's a big reason he stayed till his senior year. Even more importantly than that, whatever you think about the late Jim Irsay and what he became, and it was a disaster. When he took over for Bob Irsay, it was clear he was running the Colts in a competent manner in 1997. 1998, the Mannings had done their homework. As a result of doing their homework, when it came down to Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, who was going to get the number 1 draft pick, Peyton Manning went out of his way to make sure he was drafted first by Indianapolis. He wanted to go to Indianapolis. He did not want to go to the San Diego Chargers because the Chargers, again, are one of the most incompetently run franchises in NFL history. A big reason Ryan Leaf flamed out and had so many issues, we've had Fred White on our show to talk about this, and he said it. He said, look, Ryan Leaf may not have been Peyton, but had a stronger arm, was more athletic. But San Diego, the Chargers, were such an incompetently run franchise, they derailed him. The Mannings knew that. They did not want Peyton to go to San Diego for that reason. We also know that because Eli Manning, 2003, the NFL draft, the Bengals had the number 1 pick. Again, another incompetently run franchise. So Eli Manning stays. He gets the bad luck of an incompetently run franchise getting the number 1 pick in the 2004 NFL draft. And the San Diego Chargers again, who would consistently get top 2 picks in the draft during this time period. Eli Manning, what does he do? Forces a trade out to go to the Giants, the New York Giants, because he does not want to play for San Diego. His family's very big on that. They don't want him playing for an incompetent franchise. This is Archie Manning getting his revenge on the NFL, saying, I'm not letting any of my legacy kids go through what I went through playing for such a pathetic, sad sack franchise like the New Orleans Saints, which they were during that time. They've got better ownership now, obviously. So they force a trade, and Eli goes to the Giants, a more competently run franchise. Now, the problem with all this, obviously, is that you don't want to play. If you are a number one draft pick, you're going to oftentimes be drafted by an incompetent franchise. I'm a Titans fan. I think Cam Ward had a chance to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but only the Titans would be incompetent enough to draft him while forcing Brian Callahan's drop-back passing pro-style offense on him, which is not Cam Ward's game. It's not going to work. I feel sorry for Cam Ward. He is being set up to fail by a pathetic sad sack franchise. The decision for Arch Manning will come down to whether or not certain teams have the number one pick next year. I'll just say it. If Cleveland has the number one pick, the Mannings are tight with the Haslams. But I think given the Greg Schiano blow up and how they see how Jimmy Haslam runs Cleveland, Arch Manning's not going to want to get drafted by them. Cleveland, he don't want to get drafted by them. The Chargers, he don't want to get drafted by them. The Jets, he doesn't want to get drafted by them. The Commanders, maybe. We don't know how that's going to play out without Dan Snyder. But had Dan Snyder still been there, he wouldn't have wanted to get drafted by them. I think the Cardinals, he didn't want to get drafted by them. We know this is why Peyton Manning ruled out Arizona when he was looking for a franchise to go to, because he thought they were an incompetently run franchise when he was a free agent, even though he could have thrown to Larry Fitzgerald. Okay, these are incompetently run franchises that you nix if they have a chance to draft you. You say no. Peyton Manning and Arch Manning is going to make his decision based on which franchise will have the number one pick. Adam brings up a point. San Diego was a mess. They still managed Phillip Rivers, missed on the Mannings and Drew Brees. Yeah, but see, Adam, that's the thing. We talk about Drew Brees is going to the Hall of Fame, is eligible for the Hall of Fame this year. It's funny you bring up Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees. San Diego got rid of Drew Brees. They got better when they went with Phillip Rivers the next year. I've always said this. Drew Brees is lucky he got ditched by San Diego. Because if he doesn't go to New Orleans, he's just another, and play for Sean Payton's system, he's just another run-of-the-mill quarterback. If you had Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees, if San Diego ditched Phillip Rivers and kept Drew Brees would go down as a solid, decent quarterback. Phillip Rivers would be the one in the Hall of Fame. Honestly, I firmly believe that. So I do firmly believe that Arch Manning's decision on whether or not to come back for 2026 will be based on who the number one draft, which team has the number one draft. And by the way, that will also influence his decision on whether or not to come back for 2027, because we forget Arch Manning redshirted in 2023. So he's eligible through 2027. And it's not beyond the Mannings, who come from a background of privilege and who come from a background of means, to save their time in college and make sure that they get drafted to the right team, particularly when also not just coming from means, but now in the NIL age, you'll come back more anyway, because you can get money to come back in the NIL age, more incentive to stay behind. So that's going to be a big part of this. We're going to see how it all plays out, but I'm telling you right now that Arch Manning will make his decision based on which team has the number one draft pick, because that's how the Mannings operate, because Archie Manning has made it his life's mission to make sure his kids and grandkids never go through what he went through in New Orleans in the 70s. And that's how that is going to play out. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We are live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Thank you guys all for tuning in with me this week. We will be back on Monday again at 10 a.m. Eastern. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Again, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, leave a comment, tell me what you think, tell a friend about Off the Hook Sports, building something great here. We want you to be a part of it. And guys, week 0 is 2 weeks away. How about that? Got a lot coming up in the college football world. So been great chatting with you guys. I will see you all Monday again at 10 a.m. Eastern with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation